close stuff from, all that I could become. Eager but too scared to climb. Wanted to please my friends, but it felt like the end of myself. I was shut down and all drained out. I was lost, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness. They turned on me, but now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they saying, this is who I am. This is who I am now. They think that I have lost my mind, that I'm not being true, but they don't have a clue. 'Cause this is me when I cut out all the shallowness and everything I suppress to fit in a small frame. But I won't play your game anymore, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness. They turned on me, but now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they saying, this is who I am. This is who I am now. I'm gonna let them talk, but I ain't following nobody else. How can I be resentful when I finally respect myself? I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness. They turned on me, but now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they saying, this is who I am. This is who I am now.
There we are, Jen Silbernagel. We are live, KWRC TV. How cool is that?
This is awesome. Hey, Gary.
I love this. I love this. Well, that's Jennifer Silbernagel. Her name's right there, right underneath her lovely face. And Jen is our productivity coach at Keller Williams Realty Centers. And I am blessed to have Jen as a partner in our business. And she brings so much to the table and so much to our agents. And I can tell you that the person that she cares about most, apart from her lovely new daughter, and yeah, okay, she's got a husband named Dylan, but whatever, is our agents. So Jen, thank you for everything that you do. And I'm excited about the launch of what we're doing here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Gary. I mean, obviously, Gary is the market general manager of the brokerage and just a rock star in setting all this stuff and providing all this added value to our business, father, husband, all those great things. And, Gary, I'm so excited about this because we kind of came up with this idea and it just kind of flourished from there, right? I think this is the most excited I've been about something in a while. So this is really cool that we're making it happen.
Beautiful. Hopefully Dylan's not listening to that. It's all good. It's all good. So we've got lots that we're going to go through, and obviously this is Facebook, so we can make it interactive, post some comments on there. We can bring them on screen and so forth, but we got lots and lots of stuff that we're going to do. These shows will be every Tuesday, and we're going to be doing agent interviews, talking about some of the hot topics that within the market at the moment, and lots of great stuff that we're doing. The top threes. What else are we doing, Jen? Help me out here.
Oh man, top threes. We're talking about the market, like you mentioned. We're talking about some coaching initiatives that have just gotten rolled out in the brokerage. We're going to be talking about what was one of the other things? I'm blanking right now.
It's all good. It's all good. And one of the things that I like is we're going to be able to bring on agents that are doing some awesome things in their business, and we want to find out how they're doing it, and are those things that we can implement. And I'll tell you, yes, most of the time it is, and we're excited for that. So why don't we roll this awesome intro and we'll get right into it, Jen?
Sounds good.
Okay, how cool is that? Okay, so look at first person being added to the broadcast. Mr. Dylan, you are the author of that wicked, awesome video intro. Thank you, my man. I didn't tell you, but I told Jen, we're going to have you do many, many more video snippets or teasers or singers or whatever we want to call them. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Beautiful, beautiful. So, Jen, this kind of segment is we wanted to launch our coaching program that we have at KWRC. And as I mentioned, you've been our coach. Well, really, you've been our coach here for now, 3 years at Keller Williams Realty Centers. And I know over the last 3 years, it's one of these things that, nothing's ever completed. That's how I like to look at projects, right? And it's you continue to add to it, and that's the awesomeness of it. So why don't you kind of talk to us a little bit about what that coaching programs with apostrophe S now looks like?
Yeah. I mean, it's true, right? You kind of looking back 3 years ago, this where we are now and what it started as are just so wildly different, right? The path that it's taken and the support it's been given is just crazy. So where we're at now with the programs is we have our productivity coaching program, which is the one that's kind of been running the longest. Really, that was the initial launch. And then that one is, the one for newer agents who are getting started in their first year in the business. That's part of their initiation into the brokerage, and the brokerage obviously covers that cost, and they get all the training and support that they need in regard to their contracts and structures and systems and what to be doing with their time and developing a business plan and basically how to be an agent, right? Like what is it that you need to be doing on a regular basis and how do you do it is more importantly. And then the new program that we've just launched is the growth coaching program. So this is such a great program. This is for the agents that, aren't quite at the capping level yet, or have capped but not capped consistently, right back to anyone who is in year 2+ of the business. And for you guys, it's coaching, it's accountability every week. It's a structured program to give you guidance on what to do and how to do it. It's tools, it's resources, it's tech training. All of that is provided and guided for you throughout the program for the year. And most importantly, it's free, right? So Marvin has kind of set up and said he wants to do something for that middle group who, sometimes get a little overlooked. And we want to make sure that everybody is feeling the love properly and making sure that we have support for everyone. So that's what the growth program is all about. And then we also have the advanced program and the team building programs, which are paid structured programs. Once you get to that capping level and above and you want to start growing your business and growing your team, then of course we have stuff in place to kind of support you with that, and you get a bit more one-on-one personalized coaching. So we kind of at this point, I mean, we've gone from having one coaching program to having 4, arguably 5, if you look at the admin coaching component. And everybody in our brokerage has an opportunity to get coached now, mostly for anybody at a certain level and below, free, which I don't think anyone else can say right now. And it's pretty amazing what we've been working on and what we're rolling out. So that is getting started this week. Our first coaching session for the growth group is on Thursday afternoon. So that's going to be our kickoff for that. And, we've already got about 15 people registered to participate. So it's growing pretty quickly, which is also exciting. And I'm pumped to just watch everybody's business change this year and grow and adapt, right?
I love it. And you mentioned something. Here's a little shout out to Stacy, one of our newest colleagues at KW Realty Centers. And hey, Jen, can't wait to cap. Yes, Jen. Why? For those that are perhaps brand new to KW or aren't even with us yet, explain to us what capping means, because that's a terminology that we use. We use it like peanut butter, like and jam type thing. But talk to us about capping, think about it. Right?
Yeah. So I just say it now, and you're so right. Like, anybody outside of us or new might not know. So capping is, our brokerage is built on a capping structure, which means that there's a maximum amount of money that you will pay annually to the brokerage, regardless of what your income is or what your gross or net commission is. And so based on that, there's a certain amount of transactions you have to complete based on your splits in order to achieve that payout and cap, and then maintain 100% of your commission for the remainder of the year. So obviously our goal is to coach you and teach you how to do that as quickly as possible, so that you can then take 100% for the rest of the year and net as much as possible for that year.
Perfect. That's a great, love the enthusiasm, Stacy. We are excited for you. And, when you get around like-minded people like we have at KW Realty Centers, it raises the bar, and your game's raised with it. And we're excited for all the new recruits that have joined us, new agents that have joined us. And that's really exciting. Cool. Those coaching programs. So if you're not involved with one, well, obviously reach out to Jen, and certainly there we have a home for you, and we're going to work with you and support you so you can keep moving up that production. And not, sometimes it's not all about production. Jen works with many different people, and sometimes it's about, how do I get more time, or how do I get this and how do I get that? So it's not always about top dollars and top producers, because there's a lot of our agents, and me in particular, sometimes when I had some amazing years, but you're working 60-hour weeks to get those, and sometimes it's a whole life balancing, and that's something that we really strive for here at KW. So reach out to Jen, reach out to me. We're happy to talk to you about that for sure. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So one of the other things that we talked about, Jen, one of the other segments that we were going to be doing is something called the top threes. And this is something that we're going to bring to you. We're going to have lots of different segments, but the top threes is, things that are happening in the market. Could be top 3 burgers I had last week. It could be a lot of different things, right? But this, right, and top cool things Baby Brooke did this week. Who knows, your daughter? But this week there's something that I learned many years ago, and this week's top 3 is kind of around the purchase of a property. And if you don't know my background, I started buying a lot of investment properties, which, long story short, led me to be getting my realtor's license. And in that journey, I learned a lot of great things, and I learned a lot of things don't ever do again. And some of those things are kind of roll down into, if I could sum it up, 3 questions that everyone should ask themselves, or 3 questions you as a realtor can ask your clients when they're buying a property. And this came from an investment property mindset. However, this can work, across the board. And if you showed up and you started asking your clients these 3 questions, you're going to set yourself apart. So the first question I'm a simple guy, and if I can remember 3 questions, then that's good. The first question is, how can I buy the property, or how can you purchase that property? And I know the moment that I said that, how can I buy? I need to be able to qualify for the mortgage. What type of down payments does that property require? What's the closing date like? Is it something that I got to close on today, or can I push it out months in advance? What are the bank's requirements of that property? So all of those questions, does the vendor or the owner of the property, is he able to finance part of it and provide, additional financing and things like that? So how can I purchase the property, or how can I buy the property? That one question obviously has many, many different questions behind it. So it's just like as an agent, we're qualifying our buyers by asking that question. Do that. And of course, when you're buying investment properties, or as Jen just did, she purchased, their personal residence, sold the one that they have, and they're looking to move into something bigger. And they looked at a property that you could add value to. So how can you add value to the property? That's the second question. How can I add value? And I know, Jen, it's funny, and I think back, the second home that Michelle, my wife, and I purchased, it's kind of similar. It needed a lot of work. And we walked in, and she looked at me, I think on the first night we were there, and it was one of these homes that, I don't know, for whatever reason, the previous owners decided carpet in a master bathroom was important.
So I love that you just said that. So the house that we bought, there's carpet around the bathtub in the master ensuite.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Yeah.
It is. People are throwing up in their mouths right now. She looks at me, right? And I remember the first night she looks at me and she's like, "Are your feet sticking to the carpet?"
Ew.
That carpet did not last very long.
No. And I mean, we're lucky too that we have the opportunity to do a little bit of the work before we move into the house, so we can, take that carpet out and do some of the upgrades that we want, so it'll be a bit more comfortable. But adding value is just such a huge component of any investment that you make, whether it's your own property or it is an income property or an investment property of some sort, right? Because we can't just rely, although it is great appreciation, we can't just rely on that, right? We have to have the opportunity to add in order to buffer that return when we need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can come in different forms, adding value. Perhaps it's going and adding an income stream to the property. Maybe it's got 2 units, you can turn it into 3, or maybe the previous owner, it was a home with a garage, and that garage can yield you some income too. So don't just assume that the top floor or the main floor tenant gets that. They got to earn that in a sense, rezoning or reconfiguring, talking to the town on better use of the property, all sorts of different things. So that second question, how can you add value, has many different opportunities to it. And a property should provide opportunities, The last question that I ask, and this is the one that you never, ever think about when you're buying a property, is how can you sell that property? And speaking from experience, we bought properties because we fell in love with other things like the numbers and so forth. But if it's a property that you need to exit, and you need to exit quickly, and if it's in the middle of nowhere, or it's not the type of property that people are looking for, that could be an issue, right? That could be a problem. And you really need to look out for things like that. Now, if it's more more of a personal preference and a family decision, that's one thing. But at the end of the day, here's what we know: people will always sell properties, even if they say, "I'm going to die in a coffin and you can take me out of this home." I can guarantee you that home will be sold 9 times out of 10 before that happens. So homes do always sell, and it's just how are they sold. So how can you sell that property? How can you exit it is a big thing for sure. So how can you buy it? It's just all around the financing. How can you add value? And of course, how can you sell it? Those are the top 3s for today.
Yeah. I just want to jump in on that last question. Like, what a great question. How can I sell it? Right. And a conversation to have with all of your clients when they're making that decision to invest, whether it's for themselves or not. It's like, what happens when I need to sell it, or if something changes and I need to sell it, what's my advantage? What's going to sell this home, and how do I maximize that while I'm living there? How do I enhance it? How do I make sure that I protect it? Right? Because sometimes we get in a situation where someone buys a property and makes a change that actually devalues it, and they just haven't thought about it. And it's such a great value add to give to your clients, right? And having that conversation and teaching them to think like that. So I love that question.
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. So this takes us into our next segment, the quick takes. So here's what we have. There's a few things that are coming in on the side of the screen there. And Jen and I are going to spend 2 minutes or less talking about them. And again, these are things that have come up in conversation really as early as this morning, for instance, and we had people asking us about door knocking in this current environment and so forth, and everything like that. And we should probably do like a flashing news release or just out, because as we're getting on the call here, what happened is obviously that the Premier of Ontario came and really kind of tighten the hatches, if you will, or lock down the hatches of what we can do from a movement perspective in COVID. So I don't even have all that information at the moment, but we'll certainly get that out to everybody. Good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to start the clock, and we'll talk about power of sales. Do you want to start that, and I'll kind of finish it, or you can ask me a few questions around power of sales, and we'll kind of take it from there. How's that sound?
Yeah, I'll start with the most common question I get asked when it comes to power of sales from a coaching perspective is, how do I find them? So that comes up all the time for me. How do I find power of sales on MLS, or is there a way to find it? And I don't know, do you want to answer that one, or do you want me to answer it?
Sure.
I think you know the...
Sure. I actually got some stats here on some stuff, and they are really hard to find.
Yeah.
It's kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack. However, I have found a couple of neat tricks, and that I'm sure got passed on to me at some time. And when we are looking for power of sale properties in Ontario, first of all, we got to know that there's very few of them. And the second thing to do when we are looking for them, if that's your, what you want to go and search for, some of the simple things that you can do when you're logged into your local real estate board, like TREB or wherever you are, instead of just searching by the what am I trying to say? By the agent that might have some power of sales, one of the neatest things that you can search is search by the owner. And if you can cross-reference stuff, and if you just search for bank, or some of the banks, some of the major banks, obviously TD and CIBC, Canadian Imperial Bank, all of those. If you start typing in some of those with some of the fields, some of those properties will come up, and that is a way to certainly search for those properties. Now, on the flip side, here's some stats. You ready for this, Jen? So I printed this off this morning.
Yep.
Here's what we need to understand in the Canadian real estate market, and then obviously in focusing in Ontario, we are. In Canada, there's a total of 4.8 million homes with mortgages. Okay? So a far cry from what's in the States. So what you know about the States, what is being spoke about in the States, don't listen to it. Know your local stats. So in Canada, 4.8 million. The number of mortgages that were in arrears, and it takes 3 months to have your mortgage in arrears in Canada, only 12,000.
Wow.
Only 12,000. So that says, and if I do the math, because the paper did it for me.
What's that percentage?
It is 0. So it starts with a 0.25% of all homes in Canada are in arrears.
Wow.
Which goes to show you there is just not a lot of homes that become power of sale, or if you're outside of Ontario, foreclosure in Canada. And if we talk about Ontario in itself, we have just over 2 million homes with mortgages. We're going way over the 2 minutes, but this is important stuff.
I can say, yeah.
Which is 40. We have 42% of mortgages right here in Ontario. Do you want to take a guess at what percentage our arrears are?
I mean, based on the Canada one, I'm going to say it starts with a 0.
Well, it is 0 at 0.11. So we're actually less than double what our national average is in Ontario. Less than double. That's crazy. And in fact, if I look at the numbers, and they report it by the month, okay? This is so small. We have been it got up to 0.12% in the fall, and last reported in the third quarter there, 0.11%. So it's almost trailing down.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Isn't that interesting with all the talk of defaults and what's going to be coming, that stat is that low, right? It just goes to show you, what we don't know and what we hear versus the reality of the numbers.
yeah, exactly. Okay, let's move on. Let's move
Yep.
on. The next one there is door knocking. So this was a hot topic in one of our WhatsApp groups this morning. What do you think about door knocking at the moment?
Oh man, don't do it. That's what I think about it. I mean, if you want to go deliver flyers, I mean, obviously with today's announcement, this answer might have to be adjusted as we progress into a tighter lockdown situation. But up until today, I would have said, a lot of agents are having great success delivering flyers and continuing to work their farm areas or develop farm areas, but we're not physically going and knocking on a door and having a face-to-face conversation. Now, I have had some agents saying if they have a farm where they're known, where they have relationships and they knock on those doors, they have been getting okay reactions to that. But I certainly wouldn't be knocking on any doors cold, without any relationship. And I think even further than that now with the further restrictions, I would say, not at all, right? Don't do it. It's just not appropriate. And people are going to get called out for it, right? We've seen on social media people getting their picture, getting something posted that they left at the door and just getting ripped to shreds by the general public. And that is just not good for your reputation. And, they're not going to remember that you didn't knock on their door, but they might remember that you did. Right. And I think we have to keep that in mind too. Yeah.
I love that line. Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously with what was announced this afternoon. We're being encouraged to stay home. So use that time to maybe deepen some relationships, and albeit it's going to have to be over the phone or text or what have you. But we all have raving fans, even if you've done one transaction or 1,000. We all have raving fans and people that really cheer for us, and go connect with those people, right? For sure.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Look at that. We did this one within 2 minutes. That's exciting.
We did it. We're
Beautiful.
1 for 2.
Okay, inventory. Let's talk about inventory. How's you just went and bought a property? How was that inventory, Jen?
It was challenging. There is no inventory. I mean, for every one house that comes up, there's like 20, 30 buyers. We were strategic in trying to buy a home that we knew wouldn't be the ideal home for the majority of buyers, or potentially, be in a price point that buyers could buy and then afford to fix up. So we were lucky enough to make that decision and use that route. But for the majority of buyers, especially first time out there, there aren't a lot of options. And when there are, you're competing with a lot. I've heard of offer numbers up as high as in the 40s, 20s, 30s, at least in the 10s. It seems rare right now that we're going below that. And so inventory is just minimal. And that is making it very, very difficult to navigate even getting in to see a property, let alone getting in an offer and potentially winning it. So, you have to be on the ball about everything. Your clients need to know immediately. You need to get in there that day, get your name on the showing list as quickly as possible. So if an offer does get registered, you get notified about it. Even if you're booking for a day or two out, make sure that you register at an appointment the first day it hits the market, so that you get those updates, or else you're going to miss it. Right. And the bigger question is, where's the inventory going to be in the spring and in the summer and in the fall, right? Like, what's that going to look like? Are we going to continue down this path? And are we having those conversations with buyer, or do we expect there to be an upswing in listings in a traditional spring market? We get more inventory, right? So what does that look like? And Gary, I would throw that to you. Do you have any thoughts on that at all? Like, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, right? We don't know how to predict what's going to happen in March, but I know we can certainly say it's not going to be power of sales.
No.
I know that.
Yeah. And even if there is an uptick, right, in the power of sales, even if it doubles, that's not going to create the inventory levels, the demand that the market requires at the moment, right? Because we just know it. And that's the big thing. And so for those 40, those 39 different other offers or families that didn't get the home the other night, for instance, what are they? Well, they are typically sellers as well. Typically, right? We can at least probably suggest that maybe 3/4 or 2/3 of them are, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of months.
Yeah.
I mean, we can say we've never gone through this before. However, from a real
Right.
estate market and a demand versus supply, we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have.
Yeah.
And just go back and research and look to see what happened and educate your clients on what happened and how that market shifted and went the other way. It's always a pendulum. It goes one side to the other. We were talking yesterday, right, Jen, with one of our top producers. We just wish it was a balanced
Yeah.
market. But
Yeah.
that balanced market really only stays for a short period of time. It's either one or the other, right? So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
okay.
Which is unfortunate because that's the best one. So
I
it's
know.
like you hit a sweet spot and then we go a different direction and you got to shift and adjust again. And it's a continual battle of knowing enough to see the signs and know when to adjust and how to adjust, right? And
Yeah,
then when we don't know, learning how.
yeah,
And that's the tricky part. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks, Amanda. Great point. I gotta say that I said it. It was probably Jen though, but it's so true. Like, and a lot of the stuff is, the public or our clients might say, well, realtors must love a hot market. Well, in actual fact, like, we don't really, because most of the time
No.
we're on the sidelines because we couldn't get one of our buyers into a property. And I know many people are working with multiple buyers, and that same individual yesterday, Jen, right? They have 25
Mm-hmm.
qualified buyers that can close on our property today, and they're
Yeah.
they're looking everywhere for them, right? It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, next
It
one.
is. And
Next one.
yeah. Yeah.
Inventory.
Appraisals, right?
Yes, that's what I meant. See, that's why there's two of
I
us
mean,
on this.
we can keep talking about inventory, but yeah.
Nice, nice, nice.
Yeah.
So appraisals. So here's the comment, Jen, is after
Mm-hmm.
40 offers and the home was listed at 900 and I had to, my winning bid came in at, $1,075,000.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening, and we've seen it before, is the banks look at it, and because it's such a fast moving market up, the banks don't know how to value that property. So what do banks do, and
Yeah.
what have they always done? They've been conservative. So when the appraisal comes in at, say, 900 where it was listed at, what happens?
Yeah, I mean, that's a terrible situation to be in, right? And this is where knowing the market and the value is so important as a realtor to be able to not overpay. Because obviously, we're seeing a scenario where a lot of homes are getting underlisted below market value in order to get that big ticket number. And when it does go above, the lenders are going to hold the buyer responsible to come up with that difference in the money. And um, if you haven't got a financing condition in there, which is common in the current market that we're in, and you go firm and then that appraisal comes back below what you paid for it, then your buyer has to have the funds or have access to the funds to make up that difference, or else they're not going to be able to close on that deal. It's going to go into default, and there's going to be just a whole stream of continual issues that carry over from that. And at the best case scenario, they're going to lose that deposit, which, at 5% probably is a significant amount of money. So I think it's so important to remember when you are in these multiple scenarios that the appraisal does matter. And, we're in a scenario right now too, where appraisers aren't even going into the houses because with COVID restrictions. So they're walking a lot and they're going to the property, but they're not walking inside. So they're strictly basing it on exterior and then the photos that they're seeing on MLS or the virtual tour. So if it's a property where the photos don't justify what the interior looks like or feels like, you've got to be cautious that it is a human perception making those decisions, right? And so there's a lot of variables there that could impact us. But big picture, end of the day, it's that your buyer has to have that money there or access to those funds in order to close that gap if it was to come in. And I don't know a lot of buyers with an extra 100,000 kicking around or 200,000 or whatever that might be if their deposit doesn't cover the difference and with enough space for the lender to feel confident that the risk factor is low, right?
Yeah, and that's a big piece of it too, because many people will say, well, I just won't close on the property. Well, actually, you're contractually obligated to close on that property, so there's going to be some ramifications for you if you cannot close. So make sure that you are having those conversations with your clients. Make sure that you're working with obviously a great lawyer and that understands and how to navigate those conversations and how to navigate that closing for sure. And that obviously goes both ways, whether you're the seller or the buyer. And it's important because we saw, in 2017, a lot of things go sideways. And if we've learned anything from that, trust me, like, please, if we've learned anything, is to educate, and have more. If you think you haven't had enough, or if you had enough conversations, have one more. Because there's one thing that I know with clients, when agents are talking to clients. See, we do this every day. It is like putting in the toast and getting the peanut butter and jam out every day for us. But for our clients, put yourself in their shoes and trying to experience it through their eyes, because it'll be entirely different. Okay, closing gifts. So
yes,
we had a neat discussion yesterday, and there's so many different perspectives on closing gifts. And some people will say, well, you're not going to get a closing gift from the lawyer other than a bill. You're not going to do this. You don't get a closing gift from your dentist, right? Other than a clean mouth type thing. And then there's the opposite side, Jen, where closing gifts can completely change the way you're viewed upon or how you attract business as well. What's your take on all that, Jen?
Yeah, I mean, I come from the world of referrals and database and, connecting and relationships. And so for me, I like a good closing gift. I like giving people a good closing gift. It makes me feel good. It's there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of time and process put into it, whether it's systematic or not. You still put the effort in to come up with that idea for that person and hopefully personalize it. And I personally think that I do see that generate a lot more referrals in my business and in coaching clients' businesses, because it is that personal touch and it is that wow moment that we talk about right now. I think there is an argument to be made. It's like, what closing gift are you talking about? Are you doing something generic and basic, like that doesn't require a lot of thought, isn't, above and beyond the standard? Or are you talking about a personal, thoughtful, authentic gift that you've made an effort to give somebody? Because I think that's where the value lies, right? It's in what you're giving and why you're giving it, not just, hey, I'm giving you something to give you something. And I think there's sometimes a disconnect between that. And I mean, I wish my dentist would give me a gift every time I went. They give you like a sucker or whatever, but that's about it. Right?
They want you to go back and a free toothbrush. Yeah, it's all
good.
Yeah,
exactly.
I love closing gifts, and it allows you to set yourself apart from the crowd. I have a close friend of mine who runs a hugely successful team in Edmonton. Shout out to Ben Osterveld. And Ben tells his team, when you go for the listing appointment and you go for that first appointment, your goal is not to get the listing contract, because he already knows they're going to get it, right? The goal is to go figure out what closing gift you're going to buy them, because he's a big proponent of make it personal. Like, anybody can go out and buy a wine bottle and a gift card to their favorite restaurant. Go make it personal. And that, that's what that person is going to remember for years and years and years to come. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Raya, you're absolutely right. And I I'm trying to bring it on the screen here. I must, in my opinion, it feels good to give. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Even before the transaction is made. Yeah, for sure. For sure. There's so many, giving is a good feeling, right?
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, that's why I coach. It feels so much better to give and help and support. And Raya, I love that you made that point. Even before a transaction is made, there are lots of little things that we can do along the way, little extra touches. And, anyone who's in coaching with me has heard me say, sprinkle in the wow moments, right? When there's this moment in a relationship that doesn't need to be, hey, you did a deal, so therefore you get. It's kind of like, hey, I heard that you needed this. You shared that you were struggling with this, and acknowledging those and then taking those moments and making them something special. That's what's going to create that, right? So whether that's as a closing gift or as gifts throughout the system or as thoughts and gratitude and things of that nature, it can all be very, very impactful.
Yeah, Stacy, I know you're right. She agrees. Wow them and make them feel. I like that she did this. It was like in 2 different texts. Make them feel what? Special is what she goes on to say, and it's so true. Like we can do a whole course on this, right? But really, it's about creating a relationship. You have to create a relationship with your clients, so you know what gift is going to make them, for instance, feel special, or more importantly, perhaps, or said differently, connect with them. right? And that's the big piece, right? At the end of it, we're supporting them and helping them, buy their home or sell their home, and sometimes in both cases. But how do we create that client for life? Well, this is a great way to do it.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's got to be authentic, right?
Good stuff. Okay, the last one there, Clubhouse. You're like, what the heck is Clubhouse?
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so first of all, you've got to have an iPhone. So if you don't have an iPhone, Dylan Silbernagel, sorry, dude, you can't get onto the app. Now, it is the strangest thing ever. So you log onto this app, and people will create different rooms, right? And it's like sitting in it is sitting in a mastermind and listening to people, just like what Jen and I are doing in a sense. And they might bring you on to say something as well. And anybody can host one of these Clubhouse rooms. You can go on there and host a room yourself. And the neat thing is, I was in a room the other day with Grant Cardone and many others. Gary Vaynerchuk's on it, and it's like being at one of their workshops, and they're just going back and forth. I don't spend a lot of time there, and none of the audio is ever recorded. So you're either in and you're out and that type of thing. But it is kind of a unique experience. It's, I guess, the latest craze at the moment. I don't care where you are. Just network with like-minded people and people that are doing the things that you want to do. I think that's the way to say it.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I don't know anything about it. Gary literally sent me the invitation yesterday, and we looked at it for like 2 minutes, and I was completely lost. But I do love the idea of getting that, opportunity to just find that content or find those conversations with higher like-minded people and just listen and learn for half an hour, right? Great way to reset your mindset, great way to expose yourself to new ideas that maybe, you wouldn't have gotten to on your own. So there's definitely a lot of pros to it. So it kind of sucks if you're not an iPhone user.
You're right. Actually, you just made a great point. You can go in there and get lost. But if you give yourself 15 minutes or 30 minutes to go in, listen to one of the rooms, and then get out, that's where your golden nugget's going to be. Just don't go in there and get lost and jump in and out of rooms. Be purposeful with it. I think that's a great point, Jen. Very, very, very smart of you to say.
Thank you.
Very good.
Every once in a while, I come up with something.
No, a lot of while you come up with something. Very good. Well, that obviously wraps up Quick Takes, and we're going to do lots of more things like that throughout our weekly episodes. And there's a lot of great content that we have planned. And again, this is an opportunity for you to see and hear some other opinions and to help spur on some conversations for yourself and to create some opinions for yourself as well.
Yeah, and on that note, I think if you have ideas that you want to get covered or thoughts, like share them with me and Gary, right? Fire us a message, let us know, go, hey, this is something that came up in my business this week. Can you cover it on KWRC TV? Absolutely, right? Like we love the content and we love new ideas, and we're not going to think of every scenario. So giving us ideas and stuff to run off of as well can create a fantastic show. And our plan is to do this every week going forward, every Tuesday afternoon, and to build from it and to create other segments and other shows that you guys can learn from and get the information from. So, the more input, the better, right?
Very good. Love it. Couldn't have said it better. So for Jennifer Silbernagel, our productivity coach at Keller Williams Realty Centers, we will say goodbye for now. I'm Gary McGowan, and we'll see you next week.